Welcome back. Now, migrant crime. Texas Congressman August Pfluger sending a letter to Federal Trade Commission Chairwoman Lena Khan yesterday, slamming the agency's decision to block oil and gas CEOs Scott Sheffield of Pioneer Natural Resources and Hess Corporation's John Hess from joining the board of directors of their respective acquiring companies. In the letter, Pfluger writes how they've spent decades building businesses that have driven the U.S. forward, provided thousands of jobs, and helped make U.S. energy independent. But he says, quote, unfortunately, the FTC has made them the scapegoat for the bad energy policies of the Biden-Harris administration. Joining me now exclusively to discuss the letter is the man himself, Texas Congressman August Pfluger. He's a member of the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I mean, I saw this and I learned about this in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago when the Journal wrote a piece saying, why is it possible that the only way that that Chevron can do an acquisition of Hess Corporation is if John Hess is not on the board? And I thought, well, what's that about?
Well, thanks for having me. And you're right. You talk about the thing that underpins our entire economy, that underpins our national security. It's energy. We've talked about that many times. And what the FTC has done by blocking Mr. Sheffield from joining the board of Exxon and now attempting to do the same thing with Mr. Hess is another form of weaponization. These folks out here in West Texas in the Permian Basin over the last 10 to 15 years have revolutionized energy production, have made it cheaper for every single American, have given us a tool of national security, and now they seek to continue to make good on their promise, which Biden said he would kill fossil fuels, which is the further weaponization against the oil and gas industry. Yeah. Americans are tired of it. We want answers, and we want to know why they're doing this and what process they went through in order to decide this.
And you represent, of course, an area of Texas which is arguably the most important area for the U.S. to be energy independent, the most capacity there in that region. You know, Kamala Harris has talked a lot about the fact that, well, she used to be against fracking, but now she's okay. She won't ban fracking. But the truth is that any administration can put a damper on oil production in their country from many things, not just fracking. I mean, you can slow oil and gas production through lease policy, through pipeline regulations, LNG plant licensing, and all that. So, I mean, is she being genuine when she says, oh, I won't ban fracking? I mean, does that give you a sense that she's actually going to promote oil production?
No, absolutely not. She said herself her values haven't changed. And that's exactly right. They haven't changed. They're going to continue to weaponize against us. They use the EPA. They use time. Remember, the Biden administration put a pause on LNG exports around the world. In the midst of a major Russian conflict with Ukraine, where we're trying to have U.S. LNG displace Russian LNG. So, no, they have many weapons. They have weaponized against the Permian Basin. And this is the reason that House Republicans have led on issues like H.R. 1. We understand how important energy security is. The Permian Basin, which I represent, plays a major role in this industry and throughout the country. We're going to continue to push back against this administration for weaponizing against the industry.
Yeah, and I know President Trump has said, look, tapping into America's energy capacity is not just an economic issue, but a national security issue, so that the United States does not have to depend on adversaries for oil like Russia or Iran.
You know, instead of targeting American producers and American business people, why don't we target Iranian producers and actually have sanctions on Iran that work and not have a strategy of appeasement? But it's been just the opposite for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I want to get your take on what else is going on in Texas, particularly the wide open border, sir, because members from this brutal Venezuelan gang, Tren De Aragua, have been busted for allegedly trying to recruit middle school students in Texas. According to the New York Post, this is a story in exclusive today, that the Tren De Aragua comes for U.S. kids now. Gang members trying to recruit middle school students in Texas. The DOJ arrested an Afghan national this week who's also accused of plotting an Election Day terrorist attack on behalf of ISIS. He entered the U.S. shortly after the Biden-Harris administration's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan on a special immigration visa, and one day after Trump warned that terrorists are crossing the border back in September of 2021. Watch this.
The country has never been more unsafe. We have people pouring in through our southern border, which everyone's forgetting about right now because of the travesty of Afghanistan.
Congressman, your thoughts on this Tren De Aragua. What are you seeing on the ground there?
Well, I have middle school girls in Texas, so this hits home personally for me. This was in Houston, Texas, and this is exactly the question that I asked Secretary Mayorkas the last time he testified in front of the Homeland Security Committee, which was, is it your policy to detain people who match the terror watch list, to detain people who are affiliated with horrible criminal gangs like the Venezuela gangs that we're seeing right now? And he couldn't answer the question. And then Christopher Wray said, yes, we do have people at large still roaming through the United States that match the terror watch list and that actually have affiliations with gangs. So this hits home for me. It hits home for many Texans. But you just have to ask yourself, Maria, who do you want leading the country and actually protecting us from these violent criminal organizations? Because they've let in 10 million people, many of whom are affiliated with these gangs, making our streets more unsafe than they ever have been. And the answer is certainly not Kamala Harris. It's Donald Trump.
Well, let me get your take on all of this because, you know, the response to the hurricanes, many people, even people on the ground in North Carolina, said that what are we going to do with $750? I mean, I'm getting no help from this administration. And from that to the money that is almost out of FEMA because Alejandro Mayorkas told us that FEMA will not be able to make it through the hurricane season. It's out of money. So the administration is now on this tear about misinformation. They claim that, you know, it's misinformation that they were slow in the hurricanes. It's misinformation that they used FEMA money for illegals. But we know that Karine Jean-Pierre walked us through the use of FEMA money for illegals 2 years ago. Watch this.
FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants. We'll continue to do what we can as a federal government to support these cities as we rebuild our asylum processing system after it was gutted by the Trump administration.
So, Congressman, how are we supposed to believe that everything's misinformation when we have KJP on tape walking us through using FEMA money for illegal migrants 2 years ago?
Maria, it's just complete nonsense. Done everything they can from day one. Remember, they reversed every single Trump-era policy on immigration on day one with executive orders. The building of the wall, they reversed Remain in Mexico, they reversed all of it. So it's complete nonsense. Anytime we have congressional oversight or questions into what the administration is doing, now they're labeling it as misinformation. And obviously we're praying right now for everybody in Florida. I have a lot of friends there, and we're very worried about them. But the situation right now is that we want to know that we can trust the government, that we have a government who is responsive, that is on time, that's going to provide the help that we need. It's not misinformation to ask those questions. And if they have valid answers, that's fine. But they have used FEMA for illegal immigrants. They have given benefits to non-citizens. They have done that in the past, as she just said. And that is what Americans are so upset about. We want to know that that money is going to go to U.S. citizens in need for Hurricane Helene and now for Hurricane Milton, not for the 10 million people that they have let in because of their policies.
Yeah, and I just wonder why Alejandro Mayorkas told us that FEMA was running out of money if now they're all backtracking on it. I mean, he's the Secretary of Homeland Security.
He won't answer a single question for the last 4 years about any of his policies. We know that he has prioritized every single other country before he has prioritized the United States. That is a fact.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work. Thanks very much for being here this morning. August Pfluger this morning in Texas. Stay with us. We'll be right back.